Good Erev Shabbos, and I hope you're all well. Firstly, Muzzles this week. Muzzle Tov to Jane and Barry Rose on the occasion of their 30th wedding anniversary and the birth of their grandson. To Haley and Anthony Silverstein on the occasion of Harry's bar mitzvah. To Nicola and David Danzig on the occasion of Jack's bar mitzvah. To Joe Nightingale and Simon Herman on the occasion of Benjamin's bar mitzvah. And to Haley and Neil Blayberg on the occasion of Benji's bar mitzvah. Muzzle Tov also to Hannah and Johnny Klein on the birth of their daughter. Deborah Raymond Sachs on the birth of their son. To Yael and Josh Benson on the birth of their daughter. To Amelia and Josh Gershony on the birth of their daughter. To Natalie and Elliot Siegel on the birth of their daughter. To Joanne Gertzina and Simon Cena on the birth of their son. And to Jonathan Taylor on the birth of his grandson. And to anyone who's celebrating a birthday or anniversary in the coming week. We wish Refuah Shleima a full and speedy recovery to anyone who's unwell. We wish Arich Hashamim long life to Johnny Mora on the sad passing of his father. Elia Mark Verba on the sad passing of their husband and father. Robertson Garson on the sad passing of her father. And to the family of Murray Lever. We wish long life to anyone who's observing a yortzeit in the coming week. Now, as we know, he was just a humble shepherd, guiding his father-in-law's flock, when one day, deep in the wilderness, Moshe sees an unusual sight. An angel of God appeared to him in the blaze of fire inside a bush. And he looked, and the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Now, there are so many questions on this incident. What's the significance of it all? Why was the bush burning? How was it not consumed? But I'd like to focus on this. Why was the whole incident taking place in a snare, in a bush? And as Rashi points out, it wasn't any type of bush. It was a snare, is specifically a thorn bush. Why did God Davka speak to Moshe from a thorn bush and not from any other type of tree? Well, Rashi answers by quoting the Medrash that says, Imoi anochi b'tzara. God says, I will be with you in distress. The verse from Tehillim reads, Yiko'eni ve'enehu. When he calls on me, says God, I will answer him. Imoi anochi b'tzara. I will be with him in distress. I will rescue him and make him honored. So appearing in a thorn bush is God's way of saying to us, I feel your pain and I am with you. But the Midrash goes further, asking why does the book of Shemos actually begin by listing the names of the children of Israel? And it answers, Al Shem Gu'ulas Yisrael, on account of the redemption of the Jewish people. You see, the name Ruvain alludes to the verse, Ra'oi Ra'isis Ani Ami. I have seen the plight of my people. Shimon, Vayishma Elokim es nakasam, God heard their cries. And Levi, Al Shem Nishchabe HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Sarasam, in order to show that God is joined to us in our pain, thereby appearing within a thorn bush. I remember in the late 70s and early 80s, the campaign led by Rabbi Sharansky for her husband Natan, who at the time was Anatoly Sharansky, one of the best-known refuseniks and political prisoner in the former Soviet Union. He spent 9 years in a Siberian prison. Half of that was spent in solitary confinement for more than 400 days. He was locked in a punishment cell, given barely any food and clothes so thin that in winter it amounted to a form of torture. Baruch Hashem, he was eventually released on the 11th of February 1986 as part of a larger exchange of detainees, the first political prisoner released by Mikhail Gorbachev. I was just 13 at the time, but I still have a very vivid memory of a huge gathering of youth at the Yakar Hall in Hendon, waiting expectantly for Natan Sharansky to arrive. Now, I don't know how long after his release this was, but the sense of euphoria when he entered that packed hall still stays with me to this day. You see, we, together with Jews around the world, had campaigned, we'd hoped and prayed for his release, and now he was with us. Imoi anochi b'tzara. We had been with him during his confinement, and now we celebrated with him in his freedom. And some of you may have seen a video published by the Jewish Agency during the first lockdown, in which Natan Sharansky said, so I have some experience of spending time in solitary confinement, and I want to give you 5 tips. The first one, he said, is to remember why you are in quarantine. He said he had to remind himself that he was part of a huge global war, and that now people should remember that we are also at war with a very dangerous, although invisible enemy, and whether we succeed in the battle depends on our behavior. The fifth and final tip is, as he said, to feel your connection and remember that you are not alone. He said, we Jews, for thousands of years, all over the world, were scattered. But we always had this feeling that we are part of a big people, a great people with a mutual past, with a mutual future, and with our mutual mission. Think about what he said, and feel your connection. Imo anochi b'tzara. We must always remember that God is with us, and we must remain connected to God and connected to each other, his people. Good Shabbos.